And down in the cleanup spot is the veteran Evan Longoria. 177 straight starts. That's the active leader in consecutive games played, and he's a few years away from Cal Ripken's record.
Just a few, right? This is 21-year-old Daniel Norris. He was the Blue Jays' second-round draft pick in 2011. He's also the Blue Jays' top prospect, fresh off of his first Major League win. He beat the Yankees and CC Sabathia in New York. He just couldn't finish that sixth inning, as we talked about in the opening, giving up those long home runs to Teixeira and A-Rod, but he showed some composure pitching and winning at Yankee Stadium.
First pitch of the game is in there for a strike, and we are underway. I expect Daniel Norris to be very good tonight. I think the hype and the adrenaline in that first start of the season may have affected his outing against the Yankees. This is Brandon Guyer. He's in the leadoff spot.
You know what else was brutal about that in New York?
A little cold.
The weather was horrible. Just horrible. And he went out there in his short sleeves, and I thought he pitched pretty well.
It's fouled out of play. It's 1-2 to the leadoff man here in the top of the first. Daniel Norris will turn 22 on the 25th of April. And boy, what a meteoric rise he has had coming through the minor league system. Made 4 stops last year. Curveball hit in the air into center. Pompey moves over a little bit to his right. 1 down. Well, Blue Jays have played great defensively so far in the year going. Let's take a look at the outfield. And Kevin Millar has played great in left, as has Pompey. And Bautista, we know how good he is in right field. On the infield is Josh Donaldson and Jose Reyes. Up the middle, Devin Travis at second. Good double play combination. And Connor Jones at first and Russell Martin behind the plate.
Third start of the season for Edwin over there at first base. He's had 15 total chances. He has handled every one of them flawlessly, hasn't committed an error. John Gibbons likes to get Deanna Navarro's bat in the lineup, so Edwin moves over to first base.
This ball is drilled to center field and deep and way back and gone. Steven Souza jumping on that first pitch. We told you he leads the majors in pitches seen. He didn't waste any time jumping on that first pitch.
They got him for his power. It's a team that doesn't hit a lot of home runs, but he put a charge into that one. First pitch fastball.
That's his first home run of the season, his third major league home run. That might have been a cutter that he didn't get inside, and Souza hammered it deep over the wall in center.
Certainly was a cutter right out over the middle of the plate. This guy in AAA last year had a huge year.
Asdrubal Cabrera is a switch hitter. He's hitting in the third spot in this lineup. 2 balls and no strikes. 3 home runs allowed by Daniel Norris in 2 starts. He just didn't get that ball inside far enough to a very aggressive hitter.
The home runs in New York, they looked like they were changeups that were up, and that time, you're right, it was just up and over the middle of the plate. It looked like he wanted to cut that thing inside. And missed his spot.
3-0 now. There's a strike. Well, we mentioned Tampa Bay scored both of their runs in that 2-1 win last night on bases loaded walks. Here they get a first inning home run.
They're used to those bases loaded walks, aren't they?
They have 6 already. R.A. Dickey, of course, battling his control last night, walked 5 in the game.
Second time this year they've had multiple bases loaded walks in 1 inning.
There's a high fly ball. Pompey over in the alley in front of the scoreboard makes the catch. 2 down.
Let's take a look at the scouting report for young Daniel Norris. He's got a little bit of everything. It's a 4-pitch mix that he has, and fastball 57% of the time he'll use that, about 91 miles an hour. But look at the even distribution between the slider and the changeup. He'll use that frequently. I think his changeup is so much better now. It used to cut on him. He would cut the fastball, or excuse me, the changeup. Now it's fading just a little bit more against the right-handers.
I think we're going to see Daniel Norris's percentage of fastball usage go up as the season goes on. He's got a good fastball. We've seen it in the mid-90s. This is the third baseman, Evan Longoria. We have mentioned this is his 177th consecutive start. That's the longest streak in the majors. Reached back for a little extra and sailed it high enough away from Longoria.
Came out of his windup right there, looking like he was going to try and pump that ball right by Evan. Opened up the front side a little bit too quickly.
And back, that's a better fastball and gets the desired results. He strikes out Longoria, but Tampa Bay on the home run by Souza has taken a 1-0 lead. Down effectively by Tampa Bay last night. 1 run on 2 hits. Jose Bautista has 204 home runs in his career with the Blue Jays. That third all-time. Carlos Delgado and Vernon Wells and Edwin Encarnacion. He's at 114 home runs since 2012. That's second most in Major League Baseball behind the Tigers' Miguel Cabrera, who is 1 home run ahead of him over that time span.
I thought he was going to get one last night in the 9th inning, but he did not. This is Matt Andriese. Entered the season not knowing if he'd be a starter or reliever for the Tampa Bay Rays, but with all the injuries to their starters, he made his Major League debut last week as a reliever and gets a chance here to start against the Blue Jays.
The Rays, like the Blue Jays, they have 7 rookies on their team, and Andriese is one of them. He's 25 years old. He came to Tampa Bay in a trade with the San Diego Padres. Reyes is off to a good start through his 7 games this season. .357 average. It's really interesting. The Tampa Bay Rays, who might be at the top of the heap as far as shifts, are playing pretty straight away behind Andriese. They don't really have a lot of information about Andriese. This is a 2-hopper to second. Logan Forsythe makes the play, 1 down. Well, pitching and defense, that's been the theme for the Tampa Bay Rays the last several years, and it's been a very effective approach. Brandon Guyer, Desmond Jennings, and Steven Souza Jr. from left to right in the outfield. 2-time Gold Glover at third base, that's Evan Longoria. Asdrubal Cabrera and Tim Beckham. Up the middle.
Just 2 errors this year by the Tampa Bay Rays. You're right. This is a very good defensive team, something that they have done in the past. But over at first base, Rivera will get his third start. Excuse me, his first career start, 3rd game total at first base. And his first this year.
Remember, their first baseman, James Loney, is on the disabled list. This is Dalton Pompey with a ball on the strike. Two and one out. Fouled off the catcher's shin guard. Alex Anthopoulos, the Vice President of Baseball and GM of the Blue Jays, will join us after the next half inning, and it'll be an opportunity to catch up with him and see how he thinks things are going through the first 7 games of the season. He certainly had a busy off season. He changed the personality of his ball club dramatically. Full count. Jose Bautista is next. Off-speed pitch. Forsythe backhands and makes a nice play. 2 ground ball outs to start the ball game for the Rays. Early on, there's been a lot of talk about this playing surface, so we're just going to have to see how it shakes out. I think it's way too early to jump to any conclusions. It is slower. There's no question about it.
Yeah, because it's new. It's brand new, so they've had it down. They just put it in February and March. It's actually been down for a little bit. Then they took it up because they had a show here, an ice show for Frozen. Rolled it up and put it back down. So it's been up and down a couple of times. And I think it's going to take a while for the players to get used to it and to put some wear and tear on it.
They didn't need to take up the turf here. They could have just had that show outside. As cold as it was here during the off season. 2 balls, no strikes to the Blue Jays right fielder, Jose Bautista. Boy, Tampa Bay has made up their mind to both Bautista and Encarnacion. They're going to throw him a lot of pitches away and a lot of cut fastballs away. Foul back.
Just daring the Blue Jays to try and roll over on those pitches and hit into the shift. Now they do something that teams we have started to see against Jose. They're starting to move back with 2 strikes, knowing that Jose will try and shoot a ball to right field if he has to.
Took a shot at that outside corner. Bobby Wilson is the catcher behind the plate tonight. He's making his 2nd start of the season. And he comes from the University of Catchers, the Los Angeles Angels. Bautista hit again on a 3-2 pitch. Kevin Cash, the manager, knows you can't afford to put those extra base runners on in this ballpark with this powerful Blue Jays lineup.
No intent here. As you see Bobby Wilson, the catcher, they've been working everything away. That one just got away from Matt Andres. Barrels right into the ribs of Bautista. He is a control pitcher, but that one just got away from him.
Big cut from Encarnacion. Bautista's been hit twice now. Blue Jays trail 1-0. Steven Souza with a 1-out home run, top half of the inning. Tampa Bay, boy, they're getting some great pitching. We had mentioned the fact that they have 3 starters on the disabled list. Overall, the team has 9 players on the DL. But Chris Archer leading the way with this young pitching staff. They've done a terrific job. They've had 3 straight games, 7 or more innings, allowing 2 or fewer hits.
You know what? They have scored, well, they played 7 games. In 3 of those games, they've scored 2 runs, and they've won them all.
They have 4 wins, and they've won 3 of those 4 games, scoring 2 runs.
Yeah. And that shows you the kind of pitching that they are still getting right now. Even though they've got no David Price, no Shields, no Garza, they got the injuries that they have, they can pitch.
This is chopped toward third. Longoria throws on the run, on the money, and the Blue Jays are done in their half of the first. They trail 1-0. When we come back, the general manager of the Toronto Blue Jays, Alex Anthopoulos, will join us and give his thoughts about his ball club. Alex Anthopoulos. Alex, you're into your 6th season. You had a very busy offseason. You made a lot of turnovers, a lot of changes on this roster. How do you like the way the team sets up after 1 week of baseball?
Well, we had a good week, definitely a good road trip last night. Weren't able to get some hits, but I give Jake Odorizzi a lot of credit. And overall, I expect our offense to be strong. So if you're going to get 2 earned runs and 6 innings out of your starter, great relief work, I'll take our chances in a lot of those games.
Norris hits Jennings to start the inning, and all of a sudden you can see the umpire behind home plate, Corey Blazer, walked out to make sure nobody was going to take it the wrong way. Maybe they should take it the wrong way.
Very interesting.
Slipped out of his hand.
Bautista gets hit. And the first pitch here in the 2nd inning, another cutter. Just clips Jennings.
Well, Alex, you've got 6 rookies on your team, and there's been a lot made about that. But tell us why you were so confident to go with these rookies to start the season.
Well, the first thing was that they're very talented. Some, in the case of Daniel Norris, dominated the minor leagues last year, and I don't know that they needed anything more to work on down there. I think I made a comment. I don't think Norris needed to go back to AAA to set more strikeout records than he already did, and he needs to be challenged up here. And guys like Osuna and Castro, it's understandable the concern with when you factor in their experience. But at the same time, they've got, as we've all seen, tremendous arms, tremendous poise. They've got an out pitch, and they've got the ability to throw strikes. And that leads to quite a bit of success. So that doesn't mean that they won't fail at some point during the year, as all players do. And then you're looking at guys like Travis, that was blocked with Ian Kinsler and some of the other guys they had, but very good hitter, all-around player, two-way player, and Dalton as well. He certainly deserved it.
About Devin Travis, what did he show you in spring training where you said, this guy's got to be on my team?
You know, he just kept getting better and better. His at-bats were outstanding. He did a lot of what our scout David May did an unbelievable job with him. You know, and Travis is the type, he's a late-round draft pick, and I can see why, and that's not to disparage him, but I could see a scout going in on one game. He's the type you need to watch. It's very easily, if you see him go 0 for 4, he doesn't do much. People will pick at his height and things like that, but you watch him day in and day out. You see him turn 2, see how intelligent he is. He has great at-bats. He puts the ball in play. He's got some power. He does a lot of things to help you win a game, and then there's the intangibles he brings in the clubhouse. So Travis was outstanding all spring. He played a ton, defensively, offensively. None of these guys backed into these jobs. They took the opportunity and they ran with it.
Alex, there is no guarantee for playing time, whether you're a rookie or a 6-year veteran. Is there a scenario that you're concerned about with these youngsters and watching them play every day?
Not really. I mean, when you look at the position players, they have young, fresh legs. And, we're not overly concerned about that. We'll watch it over the course of the year. They might get a day or two off here from time to time. In terms of the starters and innings, we're more worried about the workload within the game. Making sure, do they have long innings, stress innings, 25-pitch innings? That's more concerning than making 30 starts or whatever it might be. So we're going to monitor them in between starts. Maybe they need to skip aside. Maybe they need to scale back. Those type of things. But in terms of making starts, I think we'll just watch the workload within a start, and we won't have a number of innings over the course of a year.
Did carrying a lot of young players have anything to do with the veterans that you have here? Josh Donaldson you brought in, and you brought in Russell Martin. Having those veteran players surround those youngsters, did that have anything to do with the decision?
It was definitely important, and that was a big part. I know when we signed Russ and we were trying to recruit Russ, a big part of the pitch, I guess, if you pardon the pun, was that we had these young arms, not only for the current year, but also we had a lot of them that were on their way, and the fact that Russ was going to commit for 5 years, that he could be part of getting these guys acclimated to the big league level and trying to bring them along. And these guys are great role models. When we brought in Dalton to tell me made the team, some of these other guys, we told them watch guys like Donaldson, Batista, Encarnacion, how they go about it, how they study, how they prepare. They're great influences, and if this is their exposure to the big league level for the first time and they're surrounded with these professional players, they're not going to know any other way to do it. And it definitely was part of, by design, to have those type of established stars.
Alex, there's the old adage in baseball that you never stop learning. As we mentioned, you're in your 6th season as a general manager. What have you learned about a chemistry of a ball club? Because it seems as though that was an important aspect of the dramatic turnover.
It was very important, and there were quite a few opportunities this offseason to acquire some players that maybe didn't fit from a character standpoint of what we wanted to be about. And the unity and the team that we wanted to build. But I've seen it over time. I know Pat Gillick said this a lot of times, and it's not to say that he's my father or parent, but you remember when you're a child and your parents are telling you something and you hear it and you say, yeah, sure, and then when you're older you say, I understand what my dad was talking about. And I think Pat's line was, when he started out, it was 70% talent, 30% makeup, and then he said as over time he lowered that to 60% talent, 40% makeup, and I heard it, it made sense. It took me 5 years to get it. It's probably the way I would explain it.
Let me ask you one thing about that last play. Josh Donaldson made a terrific defensive play. Has defense become more important in your outlook?
Very. Ideally, we'd have a bunch of athletic two-way players all over the diamond, guys that can grind at bats, that can put the ball in play. I'm a big fan of contact, so a lot of good things can happen from that. And guys that are plus defenders, especially with the young staff, we can't give away outs. We want to get these guys deep into games. We want that bullpen to stay fresh. You give outs away, it'll hurt you so many ways. And we've seen that over the last few years, and there were times that we had to maybe take shortcuts in acquiring players, but I think we're finally starting to get to the point after years of drafting some high ceiling, some upside high school players, acquiring some players. We're finally getting to the point where we want to be as an organization, and we're pretty excited about it.
Last September, we saw a lot of young pitching come up to the Blue Jays. Signing Russell Martin have anything to do with that?
Definitely part of it. I mean, I could tell you that was a long discussion we had at the end of August about who we were going to call up, and we left a lot of players that were on the 40 at the time, and normally those guys would get September call-ups, and we left guys like Rob Rasmussen down. Colt Hines at that time was left down. Steve Delabar as well was left down. And we made a conscious decision. We're going to take what we felt were the best players, regardless of whether they're on the 40, service time, things like that. And you saw a bit of a change in approach in September where guys like Kendall Graveman came up, guys like Norris. They didn't need to be up here. We felt getting them acclimated to the big leagues, getting through all the firsts, your first pitch, your first hit, your girlfriend's coming, your parents are coming, the Sportsnet interviews with Buck and Tabby. You get all that stuff out of the way, and it's not a big deal. And you have a chance to come in and win a job and be part of the club. So it started last year, and we've been a lot more aggressive, and that's just trying to adjust our approach and trying to improve.
I think we saw how comfortable the youngsters were when they came to spring training this season. They were able to compete. One final question. Pat and I have had this conversation with you before. Last year's #1 pick, Jeff Hoffman, had Tommy John surgery before you drafted him. Tell us what you think about Jeff Hoffman right now as he's coming back from Tommy John.
I got a chance to nice play. I got a chance to see him. He's got a chance to be a stud.
That's great.
That's the way I'd say it.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate your time.
Okay. Thank you.
Presented by the 2015 Honda CR-V, Motor Trend's 2015 Sport Utility of the Year.
Alex Anthopoulos talked about the impact of defense, and right here, Jose Reyes, watch him at shortstop anticipate the play being hit to his glove side.
He's getting ready. He is moving a lot better than what we saw last year. He's getting good jumps on balls, and this saves a run for the Blue Jays. Right here, going to his left, to his glove side, he makes the dive, and once he catches it and gets to his feet with that electric arm, he's going to throw him out more times than not. For me, the importance was him getting ready and getting a good jump on that ball.
Anticipating flight of the baseball and where the hitter might hit it. Reyes had a career-high 19 errors a year ago. He wants to be better than that this year. He's worked hard at it. Josh Donaldson, cutter away as Andrews got underneath that. Donaldson batting 192 in the early going. He's 5 for 26. Sharply hit off the glove of Beckham, and he won't have a play. That should be a base hit. Beckham's a natural shortstop. He played second base last night. Asdrubal Cabrera, who started short, is the DH.
And it will go as a base hit for Josh Donaldson. That ball came up just a little bit on Tim Beckham. He saw it hit him right in the palm of that glove as he went to squeeze it. But it's a base hit. That is what you're going to get from Matt Andrews. He's a ground ball type of player, pitcher, and he won't overpower you with his fastball. So the Blue Jays might start runners tonight. They might do a little bit more hitting and running to stay out of double play.
As Deanna Navarro, the defense basically straight away for Navarro. Takes one outside. Navarro 3 for 12. Deanna has 4 RBIs. He's coming off his best season offensively for number of hits, games played, and RBIs. Tampa Bay got a home run in the first, and then they manufactured a run in the second. Hit by pitch, walk, stolen base, pass ball, sac fly. Didn't get a hit.
Still scored a run. And they had another one out there if not for Jose Reyes. His great play to end the second inning. That would have gotten another run for the Rays.
3-0. Russell Martin will follow Navarro. Ball 4. 4-pitch walk. First 2 reach here in the second. Bobby Wilson out to talk to his pitcher, and here comes the pitching coach, Jim Hickey.
This happened in yesterday's game. Hickey noticed something in Jake Odorizzi's windup that he didn't like. He said his head was moving too much on some of his pitches towards home plate. Noticed something in that mechanic, went out there, talked to him, and he retired 12 in a row.
This is his 9th season, Hickey, as the pitching coach, and he's done a great job. He emphasizes throwing strikes. Odorizzi and Archer, 2 of the young starters in this rotation, and Hickey doesn't have 3 of his regular starters. Matt Moore's coming back from Tommy John surgery. Drew Smiley's probably going to start at the end of April for them against the Yankees. But Alex Cobb, who might be the best of the bunch, still throwing on flat ground. He's not close to coming back.
That's right. That's right. Smiley will make his second rehab start today, in fact, down in Class A ball.
Russell Martin takes a strike. Martin's off to a slow start. You had a chance to talk with him about some of the things he might be trying to adjust.
That's right. He was watching some of his previous at-bats when he was with the Pittsburgh Pirates today on his iPad in the locker room, and I was asking him, hey, what did you notice? He said, I think I'm opening up a little bit too quickly. Right now, when you're going like this, you find yourselves in these type of holes. He feels like his front shoulder might be opening up a little bit, trying to hit the ball a little bit too hard, maybe trying to pull the ball a little bit too much. they've straightened out the defense against him. I asked him about the 3 infielders on the left side yesterday, and he was really surprised about that.
He strikes out on 3 pitches, 2 good ones downstairs, and then the one upstairs he goes after. That's the first strikeout for Andres.
He spread it all around the strike zone that time, didn't he? And Hickey goes out there to talk to his starter, and just like that, he's back in the strike zone.
Well, when you're struggling like Russell Martin, it seems like every pitch is a perfect pitch, and that's what it looked like in that last at bat.
To his credit, though, I'll tell you, he hasn't complained, he hasn't griped or anything like that. He's just put his work in, and you know he's going to come out of this.
This is Kevin Pillar. Inside. Pillar has beaten the odds everywhere he has played professionally. He's just one of those guys that won't read the clippings. He was a 32nd round pick out of college and has just hit and played well no matter where he is.
Just bring your lunch pail every day to the ballpark and try and help your ball club win that day. You see Jose Bautista going over there to talk to Russell Martin. He sees something.
These two were teammates in junior college. So Bautista and Martin have been around a lot, so there's a measure of trust between the two, obviously. What do you see, Jose?
You see that little motion from Jose that you're jumping out there just a little too much, and I think that's what Russell was trying to tell me today, that he feels like he's being a little bit too quick.
Bautista's a great student of hitting for himself and for everybody else, and you can see the chemistry is dramatically different on this team, and there's a lot of conversations during the course of a game on that bench about baseball. There's a deep drive to left field. Brandon Guyer back at the wall. He has got room, makes the catch. Kevin Pillar pushed him right to the edge of the wall in left field. 2 down now for the number 9 hitter.
Ball just is not carrying yet. I asked John Gibbons about that today, and he says, you know what, this place sits empty for 6 months, and there's a lot of dead air in here. The fans came in, and the ball's just not coming. He says once they open this up and it warms up just a little bit, he thinks the ball's going to start flying out of here again.
There's Bautista now with the younger Pompey talking about what they're seeing. Remember, this is the first start for Matt Andres. Boy, that ball really ran in on the hands of Devin Travis. So the infield single and the walk. Blue Jays strand 2. We move to the 3rd. 2-0 Tampa Bay. check in with Barry Davis, who has more on Daniel Norris.
Thanks a lot, Buck. And you know, Daniel Norris received so much attention during spring training for driving around in the van, and it's a great story and all. But Norris wants to be known for more than just that. Obviously, what he does on the mound is important to him, but it just so happens Norris is an amateur photographer and a pretty good one. He has some photos which you can see here now. He's been taking pictures for just over a year. He says he's never had a lesson in his life. He doesn't know if he's going to have time for lessons, but there's so much he's learned just on YouTube that he's decided to take along with him on the road wherever he goes, walking around the streets, taking pictures of what he sees. Not a bad job for a guy who's never had a lesson. What?
Very interesting young man, and he made a point of going out in New York. And I spoke to him about it, and he said there was a couple people on the street, and they were really interesting, and I feel good about those pictures I took of them. They really captured the personality of New York. But Daniel is a very bright young man, and here's a guy that wants to be more than a baseball player, but first and foremost, he wants to be a good baseball player.
Yeah, and he is. You're a big photographer, too.
Well, I'm kind of like Daniel. You know what? You just take pictures and then you adjust them, and all these cameras now, they're so fancy, you can really learn on the fly. That fastball ran and caught the inside corner. This is Brandon Geyer, the leadoff man. He's in left field tonight.
Good time to show him that changeup right here. Fade away. Here it is. Against the right-hander. Again, that changeup used to always cut. That means it would like head towards the inside part of the plate against right-handers, and they turned that ball over. He started throwing it in the spring, and it's been good.
There's a fastball that's ripped to left field. Pilar over to cut it off. He's got a shot here at second. Here's the throw right on the money, but not in time. A leadoff double. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Well, nobody likes to see that, that's for sure. Those line drives back to the mound, and pitchers, we don't really give them credit for being able to go out there and block the thought of that out of their minds. So we certainly hope for the best for Carlos Carrasco. Steven Souza Jr., he went after the first pitch he saw tonight and hit it deep into the seats in center field. He's a big guy with some power.
And swings hard. Got off to a little bit of a rough start this season. Felt like he was in between just a little bit, trying to be too perfect. Finally made up his mind down in Miami. He said, I'm going to go up there, I'm going to be aggressive. That's what got me here to the big leagues. Be aggressive, swing hard. If I hit it, good things are going to happen.
Good pitch. Backed him off with that fastball. Just my opinion in watching Norris in spring training, watch him throw a side session, I think he's going to have to use his fastball more. He's got a very good fastball. You throw mid-90s, I think that sets up everything else. Sometimes, excuse me, Pat, sometimes because you have such good complementary pitches, you have a tendency to use them a lot. But still, the best pitch in baseball is a well-located fastball.
Early in the count, and then you can put them away with the off-speed stuff. I'm with you. That third pitch right there had a great purpose. Backed him up.
2-2. Souza came over from the Washington Nationals. He'll be 26 years old later on this month. He's from Washington, the state of Washington. Did he go? Yes, he did, according to first base umpire Jeff Nelson. Kevin Cash is barking at the first base umpire. He didn't think the right fielder went around. Souza reluctantly walks back to the dugout.
Hard breaking ball, and that is called a strike right there. And the reaction, he didn't think he was going to get called up. And they're still barking over at Jeff Nelson. Hey, he's going to be behind the plate tomorrow, so you better You better temper that a little bit.
This is the DH, Asdrubal Cabrera. Cabrera, a veteran, started out in the Mariners system, and there was a pipeline between Cleveland and Seattle for a while, trading players back and forth, and it seemed though the Indians had the upper hand in some of those trades. Of course, Omar Vizquel went to Cleveland from Seattle. The same for Asdrubal Cabrera.
Cleveland always seemed to get the better of those trades. Sin-Soo Choo was another player that started in Seattle and ended up in Cleveland.
Ball and a strike, 1 out. Tampa Bay has a 2-0 lead. We've scored a single run in each of the first 2 innings. They're threatening here in the third.
It's a team, the Tampa Bay Rays now are 7 for 8 in stolen bases this season. They use it very effectively. I think what Daniel Norris is going to have to do now, don't forget about Geyer out there at second base. He can run.
So fly ball, Bautista backs up. Geyer is going to tag at second. Bautista decides just to get it back to the infield. He was awfully deep in right.
Make a grand entrance during the DIY Expert Sale. Only at Home Building Center and Home Hardware Building Center. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
Fans anxious for a win for the Blue Jays here at home. They lost last night's game 2-1. Only 5 hits in the ball game as pitching had the upper hand over the hitters. This is Evan Longoria, who struck out on a high fastball his first time up. Desmond Jennings is behind Longoria, and this is the one big bat in the lineup you've got to be careful with. Two and 0.
You know, I agree with you with that about Longoria being the big home run threat. But the way this guy, Desmond Jennings, swings and swings here in this ballpark, I think you have to go right after these hitters.
Longoria chased a bad pitch.
Here's why. There's not a lot of history between Daniel Norris and Evan Longoria, so maybe you can just go ahead and just pound it and get him out.
You make a good point. Longoria in this ballpark just a 249 hitter compared to Jennings, who's hit over 300.
He just doesn't know Daniel Norris, so if you pump a couple of fastballs in there and then show him your breaking ball, maybe you can get out of the sitting.
Is it more important for a veteran hitter like Longoria to know who he's facing than, say, Desmond Jennings?
I think so. I think veteran guys, after they've been in the league for a while, they want to have as much information as possible, especially in these situations. What does the breaking ball look like? When will he throw it? Will he throw it 3-2? Or will he try and challenge me with a base open? Those little things. But when you watch Longoria hit, I mean, he's so relaxed at the plate. He's just standing there like he's taking a walk in the park. I mean, he's just seeing the ball right now, just trying to hit what he sees.
Changeup fouled off the catcher's glove as Longoria just got a piece of it. They threw him a 3-2 changeup. So that certainly has to put another thought in Longoria's mind. Okay, he's going to throw me 3-2 changeup. What's he going to throw me now? Geyer started it off with a leadoff double. He is now at third, but there are 2 outs. Boy, they were all over in that strike zone to Longoria, and why not? Like we said, you got a little bit of room to work here. Even at this point, I think Longoria has seen so many pitches in this at bat where he's got more information than he had in his first at bat now.
As he showed him the good curveball. That's the one thing I'm wondering. Tried to heat him up.
8-pitch walk. Didn't really want to come into him, and you can't really blame him. Now you've got a fresh start with Jennings, even though Jennings has hit well in this ballpark. Pete Walker, the pitching coach, out to give Norris a little bit of a break. He threw 8 pitches to Longoria before he walked him, so just give him a little bit of a breather. Help him regroup, come together with a game plan. Remember, Desmond Jennings was hit leading off the second, just brushed by an inside pitch, and it may have had something to do with the fact that Batista got hit in the bottom of the first.
This Tampa Bay Ray team, they're very patient at the plate, and they are making Daniel Norris work. He's approaching 60 pitches now, and we're only in the 3rd inning.
Kevin Cash, the former Blue Jay, youngest manager in the major leagues. This is where it all started for him as a player. Desmond Jennings with 2 outs and runners at the corners. He got hit by that pitch. It was inside, just kind of brushed his jersey just above his belt. And the high fly ball to left. Pilar has plenty of room. Jennings is retired. The Rays strand a pair. Daniel Norris pitches out of a tough situation and avoids damage of a leadoff double.
Join in the conversation during the game. Tweet your questions to @Sportsnet using the hashtag @JaysTalk. Hashtag JaysTalk. And there's the birthday boy, Greg Zahn, with his baby daughter enjoying the game. And happy birthday, Mr. Zahn.
Two 0 Tampa Bay. This is the leadoff man, Jose Reyes. Matt Andres in his first major league start. This is only his 2nd major league game. Andres pitched collegiately at University of California, Riverside. There's some other major leaguers coming out of that college. Joe Kelly of the Red Sox. Former Angel Troy Percival. This is a little looper in the left. Geyer coming in quickly, makes the catch. 1 out. So Don Pompey will step in with 1 out. Dalton grew up in Mississauga, so he's playing at home, and that means his mom Val and his dad Ken can come out to the ballpark. So just like throughout most of his life, a little good luck before the start of this game. Got to be a father's dream to be able to come to a big league ballpark and watch his son play baseball every night.
How cool is that? Your parents get to come and watch you.
Hope he got him good seats.
I think he can do that. I think he knows somebody.
Ball in the strike.
He likes hitting in this number 2 spot in the batting order, I'll tell you that. Talking to him around the batting cage today, he says he's seen a few more fastballs, which is nice.
Up the middle, knocked down by Forsythe. He's not going to have a play. Infield hit for Dalton Pompey. It's a 1-out single here in the 3rd, and that's a great illustration of how slow this infield is.
Yeah, this ball last year might have gone all the way to the wall. It was hit hard on 1-2 hops, and it's knocked down that time by the second baseman. No chance to get Pompey over there at first base. But he knows he's got Bautista and Encarnacion behind him. They're going to challenge him.
Jose Bautista was hit by a pitch in the 1st. So Tampa Bay, of course, with Joe Madden, they really employed the dramatic defensive shifts. They do the same here. Following Madden's lead, you can see there are 3 defenders on the 3rd base side of second.
Wow, if you're going to pitch him away.
Here's my question to you, Mr. Hitter. Why wouldn't you take a shot and just try to hit the ball through that big hole between 1st and 2nd?
That's what I mean. If they're going to pitch him away, take just one shot. Take one shot. Early in the count. You don't have to hit the ball that hard. Just roll it through the right side. Pompey's going to go to 3rd base.
Well, if you do that as a hitter, then Jose's giving up his strength, which is hitting the ball out of the ballpark. And you wonder if it's not counterproductive to switch from your regular pattern. I think that's why most sluggers are reluctant to go the other way.
Just one shot. That's all I want. Just see what happens here. You do that, he goes to 3rd base, and Encarnacion's hitting now with a runner at 3rd, less than 2 outs. That's team offense. And if it doesn't work, if you foul it off, then okay, forget about it. Take one shot.
Big home run cut fouled out of play. Yeah, it is going to be an ongoing argument when you have big hitters like Jose and Edwin. And I spoke to Brooke Jacoby about it, the hitting coach, and he said, well, if they change, then the opponents win on 2 levels. You're giving up your strength and you're changing your swing.
You can make arguments on both sides of it. Situation might have something to do with that. Might dictate what you do.
There goes Pompey, and Bautista fouls it over the screen. You're right. I mean, one swing of the bat, Bautista hits in the upper deck, and that's good team offense too. A 2-run home run. Nobody will ever turn that down.
Yeah. If you can guarantee it, percentages say he's got a better chance of rolling one through the right side for a base hit than knocking it out of the ballpark. Okay, and it's early in the game.
Well, the greatest in the game, they only knock it out 50 times a year. 2 balls and 2 strikes. That time he took a shot at that right side. Pompey was off running, and he'll have to go back to 1st.
A little tougher to do that with 2 strikes on you. Try and shoot the ball the other way.
Well, this is the old approach we used to hear all the time. All the old timers said, well, I look for the fastball until I get 2 strikes, and then I protect the plate. That doesn't seem to be part of the hitter's mindset in this day and age.
Not anymore. There are still some guys who have a good 2-strike approach. Now look at Logan Forsythe now. After that last swing he saw from Jose, he is now starting to creep over to his 2nd base position. Remember, just a couple of pitches ago, he was over on the 3rd base side of the bag.
2 balls and 2 strikes. Tampa Bay with a 2-0 lead. Well, this is why you have to give your defenders the freedom to read the bat. When you get 2 strikes, Second baseman can see what Bautista's doing, so he's got to be able to move to his left. Kevin Cash, a former catcher, way outside. 3 balls and 2 strikes. Pompey has been moving during this at bat. Could probably run right here.
Send them right here. Maybe open up a hole on the infield.
There he goes. Foul down the left side. Pompey, he's got some great wheels. He was running, but he was running and making sure that the pitcher Andres threw to home. Bautista lined out to Longoria in the 4th inning of last night's game, and he was positioned just about where he is right now, hugging that line.
Yeah, it looks like the 7th inning of a tie game the way he is playing Bautista.
There goes Pompey. This is into center field. Jennings got a good jump. Makes the catch on the line drive. 2 down. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. Miguel Gonzalez on the mound for the Orioles. He's allowed the Yankees just 2 hits. He sees Sabathia had a rough start to his season. 2 down now for the first baseman, Edwin Encarnacion. The Rays, they could use a carbon copy of the defensive alignment they use on Bautista for Encarnacion. They're standing in the same footprints. Tom Foley, longtime third base coach, has moved back to the bench. He's the bench coach this season for Kevin Cash. The ball driven into center field. It's going to hang up for Desmond Jennings. It does, and the Blue Jays are done in their half of the 3rd. Once again, the Rays getting a good effort from their starter.
Now you can watch the Blue Jays anytime, anywhere. Visit Sportsnet in the App Store to download. And as Daniel Norris takes them out for the 4th inning, he's gained a lot of new fans, including this youngster who showed up dressed as a mini-me version of Daniel Norris with the van attached to him as well. Very creative young man. And as you can see, the mini Bautista is with him, too. They might be brothers, Buck, but very clever with the van around him.
Well, they both have the same beard, so I imagine they could be brothers. The young Daniel Norris fan was here yesterday for the opener, and he was down near the field and had a chance to say hi to some of the players. Says Logan Forsythe, the second baseman. Forsythe is batting in the 6th position tonight. He walked at a stolen base on the back end of a double steal in the 2nd. Two and one. The hits are even at 2 apiece, but the Rays have a 2-0 lead. Bouncing ball, big bounce for Reyes at short. One down. Well, Tampa Bay has really put together quite a streak over the last 5 seasons, but you see the trend is heading south. They won 96 games in 2010, 90 in 12, and last year down to 77 wins, so they made some changes.
Yeah, they remade their team. They got a new catcher. First baseman Loney is injured. Second baseman, shortstop, center fielder, right fielder, manager, bench coach, a little bit of everything. New closers. So the Tampa Bay Rays, they're doing it their way, and it's been successful. There's no arguing about that.
They even have a different general manager. Their general manager went out to the Dodgers, and Matt Silverman is the new general manager. Matt Silverman, president of baseball operations. So it's quite a dramatic turnover.
Lots of trades, lots of intricate trades also. They went out there and did some 3-team trades to improve their team.
Andrew Friedman was the young general manager for a long time here in Tampa Bay, and he put together some great teams. In fact, he went to the World Series in 2008. Friedman was courted by the Dodgers and left. Daniel Norris with a strikeout. 2 quick outs here in the 4th. 3 strikeouts for Norris so far.
That's where you want to use that fastball. He's got a good one. And that time it was up and away, and Rivera could not catch up with that one. I think you got to pitch off of your fastball if you're Daniel Norris. His secondary pitches are pretty good, but let me see you use that fastball.
Did see Rene Rivera said that was right there. Had a pitch to hit, but he swung right through it. Tim Beckham had a sac fly his first time up. There's a fly ball to right. Bautista backing up a bit. Good inning for Daniel Norris. He's retired 4 straight, 3 up, 3 down here in the 4th. Josh Donaldson will lead things off for the Blue Jays. They got to figure out Matt Andriese. Home runs a year ago, looking for #1 this season, and you see last season he did most of his damage on the inner half of the plate.
This is the home run heat map where Josh Donaldson likes the ball, where he hits it the furthest, down and in. That's where his sweet swing is. At times a little up and out over the plate where it can extend right through it, but for the most part down and in where he can barrel it up and pull it to left field. So far in this season, at least early on, it looked like Josh was a little bit in between. Remember in spring training, he was airing it out on every swing and had a good spring. Now I think he needs to do the same thing. Just get up there, see the ball, and swing hard.
Hit 6 home runs in the spring, his first with the Blue Jays. And he is a great addition to this ball club. Had a single to short his first time up. The Rays, they've seen that heat now. They know that he wears out pitches on the inner half, so they're going to try to stay away. They left one on the inner half, but it was right at the knees.
Here it was, right there. Lefties, righties, didn't matter last year. He had 14 homers against lefties, 15 against righties, so it doesn't matter.
Well, I tell you what, we have seen it through the first 2 games of this series. Tampa Bay pitchers, they haven't made many mistakes out over the plate. Look where those 3 pitches are. Again, we mentioned a fine pitching coach, Jim Hickey, how he has worked with these young pitchers like Jake Odorizzi and Matt Andriese. He just encourages them to use their fastball. Breaking ball.
And keep it down.
And they throw a lot of strikes. Now remember, this team has 3 of their regular starters on the disabled list. And here are the top rotations in the American League. The Tigers, the A's, and the Rays. That's a familiar theme, isn't it? Those teams are right near the top every year in pitching.
You know what, Buck? We just showed the Rays' win totals over the last 5 or 6 years. Pitching has a lot to do with it. They've had some studs come through here, and they've had a lot of guys have success.
Pitching has always had a lot to do with it. No matter what decade, who's throwing, starting pitchers set the tone for your season. Another base hit for Donaldson. A leadoff single here in the 4th.
Blue Jays on Sports. Presented by the 2015 Honda CR-V, Motor Trend's 2015 Sport Utility of the Year.
CN Tower right next door to Rogers Center. This is a great destination if you're visiting Toronto. Come down to Rogers Center, see the CN Tower. There's a beautiful aquarium right next door. It's become a great destination for visitors. Lots going on right around this ballpark. Gianni Navarro is the DH. He walked in the second. He had a 4-pitch walk his first time up. That's the first strike he's seen tonight.
That was a golden opportunity, I thought, for the Blue Jays to push a run across. Got the first 2 batters on, and the bottom of the lineup has been so good for the Blue Jays early on. They just stranded the 2 runners out there.
Strike 2. 1-2. We mentioned the Rays and their starting pitching. Matt Andriese has a tough act to follow. Chris Archer, Nathan Carnes, and Jake Odorizzi have strung together 3 games, 7 innings, 2 hits or fewer over the last 3 starts. It's only the 2nd time in Major League history that's happened, where you've had 3 consecutive starts of 7 innings or more and allowed 2 hits or fewer. That's Chris Archer, and he'll go here in the series finale on Thursday night.
Well, that streak is stopped. Blue Jays have 3 hits tonight.
Look out, now they have 4. Donaldson had to wait. That ball went right past his right leg. Again, 1st and 2nd, nobody out. Same scenario they had in the 2nd.
Gianni Navarro can hit. That's why he is in the lineup. Put an extra bat in that lineup. Waits for Andriese to get that ball up, and when he gets that pitch, you can see him pull the ball, get the barrel of the bat out in front and yank it in that hole on the right side. First and second, nobody out. Josh Donaldson could not go first to third because he had to wait up on that ball. But I think you're going to see more first and thirds this season by any team playing here because it's so slow in the outfield.
Russell Martin struck out his first time up. Another perfect pitch down and away.
He was guessing fastball right there, wasn't he? He was going to try and put 3 runs on the board for the Blue Jays quickly.
A breaking ball hung, but it was high out of the zone. You know what? You can't walk your way out of a slump. You got to swing your way out of it. Russell knows that. He's played a long time. Russell Martin was born here in the Toronto area. Grew up in Montreal, and of course now they're making up a lot of those Russell Martin jerseys with 55 on the back. That guy's all set for Canada Day. Look out. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Blue Jays trying to get on the board.
That'll straighten you up right there. They caught Russell leaning out over the plate with 2 strikes, anticipating that slider down and away again, and he stood him up. Fastball up and in, and he backs off on it. Going back away.
Breaking ball, and Martin strikes out. I tell you what, they are working him over. They have made some great pitches on Russell Martin. That slider was right on the outside corner, down and away.
And it's so tough just to foul this ball off because it's in a good place. It says I'm not panicking and I'm not trying to do too much right now. They are just pitching me really tough. And he's right.
They certainly are. Martin with 2 strikeouts. Now Kevin Pillar just missed a home run his first time up. Drove a ball to the wall in left field. Pillar hit his first home run of the season on Sunday in Baltimore. Ground ball up the middle. That's through for a base hit. Donaldson's around third. He's going to score. And Pillar has driven in the first Jays run of the night.
Just missed a home run last time up, like you said. This time said, okay, I'm just going to try and bang this one back through the middle. It's a fastball out over the plate. And watch the shortstop. Look how far away from the bag he is. Tim Beckham, double play depth, not so much, and that's the hole that he finds and scores the first run.
Interesting thing, after this base hit goes through the infield, Desmond Jennings has terrific speed, but that ball slowed so much that he didn't even have a thought of making a throw to home.
It was hit hard enough in the past it would get out there to him and he would have a chance, but he had no chance.
And I think that's one thing that Luis Rivera has been very aware of in the 2 games he has seen here at Rogers Center. The outfielders are going to have to go after every ball that's hit. That is Kirby Yates, the right-hander, loosening up. Remember, this is the first start of the season for Matt Andriese. He made 25 starts last year in AAA Durham. The infield straight away, the outfield shading slightly opposite for Travis. There's a ground ball. This could be 2. Beckham bobbles and won't have a chance to make Good turn. Kevin Pillar with a hard, aggressive slide. And John Gibbons has come out of the Blue Jays dugout. They want to have a look at this on video. The way he was bobbling the ball, I think that's what's in question for the Blue Jays. Marlo Hale is on the phone with the Blue Jays video crew. And there was a bobble for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with the neighborhood play. You can see neighborhood plays all the time. Catch the ball, but you have to secure it. One more time. Tries to get it out of the glove in the transfer. And then Pillar's right on top of him to take his legs out.
Kevin Pillar's a good player.
Yeah.
He understands every aspect of how you play the game. He went in hard at second base, and just to make sure that Meckham couldn't get that throw off. Well, Kevin Cash, he's gotten everything he hoped for from Matt Andriese tonight. He pitches into the fourth inning. He'll leave with 2 outs in the fourth. He had thrown just 1 inning before this start tonight. Tampa Bay with a 2-1 lead. Kirby Yates on. Starter Matt Andriese is out of the ball game, and Kevin Cash, he didn't really know what he was going to get from Andriese, who was making kind of a spot start with 3 starters on the DL. He pitches them into the fourth, and now they'll turn things over to Kirby Yates, first out of the pen.
There are his numbers in 3 games this year. He got into 37 games last year with Tampa Bay. Fastball, he'll cut it a little bit, and an overhand curveball. He's an undrafted free agent by Tampa Bay in 2009. This is a filler role for him tonight. 3 2/3 innings for Andriese, and now Yates as they try to string it together.
Kirby Yates allowed a 2-run double to Michael Morse on Sunday in Miami against the Marlins. He's inherited 2 runners here. That double cost him 2 inherited runners on Sunday. Top of the order. Jose Reyes takes the first pitch strike.
You think Kevin Cash just wanted Jose Reyes to have a different look at a pitcher?
That's a good call. He had faced Andriese twice, and now with 2 runners on, Reyes will get his first look at a new pitcher.
Third time through the lineup. By that time, professional hitter, you got a lot of information.
Ball and a strike, 2 outs, a run in here in the fourth. Off the plate. First time Reyes has faced Kirby Yates. Yates pitched in 37 games a year ago for the Rays, total of 36 innings. Bobby Wilson encouraging the reliever to try to get out of this 4th inning jam. into the outfield, and that's going to go all the way to the warning track. Devin Travis is going to be stopped as Reyes delivers the RBI double, and we are tied.
Such a good RBI man, Reyes, because he gets into that aggressive mode with runners in scoring position. He got on top of that pitch and drove it to right field. Nice play by Jennings, the center fielder, to cut that ball off, or it would have cost him another run. But here's the fastball right down Broadway. Jose gets on top of that, creates backspin, and gets it into the gap for extra bases. Navarro can trot home, and they were thinking about sending Travis from first base, but Jennings cut that ball off and kept Devin at third base.
Dalton Pompey with 2 outs. Don't forget about the hard slide at second by Kevin Pillar to keep the inning alive and get Reyes to the plate. Tampa Bay turns 2 right there. The inning is over. Ball in the dirt.
One more time. Let's take a look at this slide. Now, Beckham has a little trouble getting the ball out of his glove. You can see him double clutch right there, and that gave Pillar enough time to get out there and kick his legs out. Good thing about that slide, he was still able to reach second base with his hands, so no interference. Good hard slide right there.
He does all the little things that'll help you win. 2 outs, second and third for the Jays. Right on the corner. Or not. Blue Jays have scored 2 here.
Just 92 with that fastball. He hides it well. And it'll get on you. He'll cut it. A little bit of curveball.
Remember, the Blue Jays have had 5 innings in which they've scored 4 or more runs. Big number early in the season. Bobby Wilson going to go out to the mound. They want to make sure they've got their plan in place. And here's the benefit of hitting ahead of Batista. Jose Batista is on deck. You got 2-2 count on Dalton Pompey, and you certainly don't want to walk the bases loaded. So Pompey has to be thinking aggressive. Good hack, hanging breaking ball.
There's that breaking ball. And that's the pitch he wants to get him out on 2. So I don't think he wants to go 3-2.
Devin Travis at third, Reyes at second. Pompey strikes out. High fastball does the trick, but the Blue Jays have tied it. It's 2-2 as we head to the 5th. Now it's time for a Blue Jays Central update. Here's Jamie Campbell and Greg Zong.
Blue Jays this year. Sunday, April 19th, it's the Blue Jays and the Braves, and the first 20,000 fans will receive a Jose Bautista bobblehead. For tickets, go to bluejays.com. And guys, I spoke to Bautista about that today, and he feels with the big beard that he has that maybe next year they could make it like a Chia Pet bobblehead where it comes clean shaven, and by the 5th inning it has the full growth.
Come on now, Barry. Did he really tell you that?
He really said that.
It's always a great event, the bobblehead day, and they'll lead things off with the Bautista bobblehead. This is Bobby Wilson. Bobby Wilson grew up in Dunedin. He went to high school at Seminole High School, and he's been in the Dunedin area for a long time. He still makes his home down there in that area.
And this is the Bobby Wilson who had a little time with the Blue Jays.
He was on paper with the Blue Jays, as they claimed him, and before he had a chance to play, they designated him for assignment, and he went on to Arizona. Bobby Wilson is now 31 years old. He was born in Dunedin, as we mentioned. He was signed by Tom Kochman, who is a great scout for the Angels. Tom Kochman's son Casey played for Tampa Bay. First baseman, left-handed hitter. Bobby Wilson started with the Angels. Never really had an extended opportunity. Most games he ever played was 75 in 2012 with the Angels. Russell Martin in foul territory retires his opposite. One down.
The championship-winning Honda CRF 450R for those who dare to ride red.
Beautiful shot of Toronto. Seeing Power standing guard over Rogers Center. Brandon Guyer fouls it off his foot. Daniel Norris has allowed just 2 hits. The Rays scored their second run without the benefit of a hit. Hit batter walk, and after a ground out, a sacrifice fly to center by Tim Beckham. That's where you have to make adjustments, Pat. Third time the Rays have seen Norris tonight.
And this is where he had some problems in New York. That third time through, it happened in the 6th inning. Home run to Rodriguez, home run to Teixeira, hit by a pitch, and then he was out of the game. He's got plenty of weapons to navigate 3 times through, 4 times through a lineup if he's got them all working.
There's a fastball. He beats Guyer with that fastball.
And you talk to scouts and you talk to baseball people, and the first thing they say about Daniel Norris is he's got great stuff. Right now he's just trying to harness it, be able to throw all those pitches in good places.
There's a pretty good pitch and a defensive swing from the batter, Brandon Guyer. You're going to see more refinement. You can see that pattern of pitches is kind of all over the place right now. But Norris really got his act together last year. He went 12-2 in the minor leagues.
Slipped that time on the mound. You could see him trying to dry off his hand also. Like he is perspiring, and that ball slipped out as his cleats also gave way.
A 1-out walk. That's the 3rd walk issued by Daniel Norris. Remember, the 3rd time through the order, hitters have a little bit better idea. Liam Hendricks starting to loosen up for the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays bullpen has been pretty good early on. They had that one clunker in game 2 in New York, and after that they've been pretty effective. That's why you carry the extra relief pitchers early in the season. You just don't know what you're going to get from your starters, especially young starters like Norris.
Yeah, you've got some young guys, Aaron Sanchez and Daniel Norris. Drew Hutchison, his last time out, Hutch could only throw 4 in the third inning, so you need that extra guy, that arm down in that bullpen. Blue Jays are carrying 3 long men.
This is Steven Souza Jr., the right fielder. There's a home run and a strikeout. This trip to the mound might have come from the bench just to give Hendricks a little more time to get loose. So Russell Martin goes out to the mound. Reyes joins in on the meeting to encourage Daniel Norris. Hey, give me a ground ball. We'll turn 2 and get you out of this. Blue Jays haven't turned a double play tonight. They have turned 7 so far this season.
You know what John Gibbons is thinking is, hey, my team has just battled back and I've just tied this game up. I don't want to give it right back. We're heading into the middle of the lineup of the Tampa Bay Rays. I don't want to hand this lead right back to Tampa. I want a shutdown inning right now.
Yeah, you certainly want to keep the momentum in your dugout. Blue Jays scored 2 in the bottom of the 4th, tied up. Blue Jays have out hit Tampa Bay 6-2. Two and 1 to a dangerous hitter. Steven Souza hit the first pitch he saw tonight. Deep over the WestJet flight deck in center field. We really haven't seen Daniel Norris throw like he did in spring training just yet. And it's 2 starts. Naturally, you have to be patient, let the youngster get settled in.
Yeah, it all counts now. So the hitters are locked in just a little bit more.
All right, and 2 in spring training, you might see 3 big leaguers and the rest minor leaguers in the lineup.
Yeah, you pitch at home, you might get, I don't know, 1 or 2 regulars. I know there's a rule that they have to have so many guys who play on your team playing in the game, but you're right.
There goes the runner. The ball is off the glove of Martin. Souza is out because the base at first was occupied. He's out on strikes, and on the ball that got away from Martin, Geyer goes to second base. 2 down. Let's check in with Barry Davis.
Thank you very much, Buck. And fans, right now during the 5th inning, our own Greg Zahn is taking over the Sportsnet Twitter account. So if you have a tweet you want to ask him, go to Sportsnet at Sportsnet using the hashtag JaysTalk and ask your questions to Greg Zahn. And don't forget to wish him a very happy birthday as well.
Thank you, Barry. It is a stolen base for Brandon Geyer. He is now in scoring position. Souza strikes out for a second time tonight. That's 4 strikeouts now for Norris. Asdrubal Cabrera has flied out twice.
Infield's on your toes right here. Any ball that looks like it's heading into the outfield, you got to knock it down and keep Geyer from scoring.
Tampa Bay is 0 for 5 batting with runners in scoring position so far tonight. Should be 0 for 6 when this thing comes down. And Encarnacion makes the catch in foul territory. Norris pitches out of it, keeps the game tied at 2.
Today, share a video or photo showing your Blue Jays spirit using hashtag TD and tag @BlueJays for a chance to win. While over in the Jays Care Community Clubhouse are some very special guests from Sick Kids Hospital. Buck?
Thank you, Barry. Always great to see the kids from Sick Kids out here enjoying a ball game. And great to have you here. Daniel Norris debriefing with Russell Martin, the catcher. Norris may be out of the ball game. He's allowed 2 runs on 2 hits. And a little bit of a struggle tonight, but how can you say he struggled mightily when he only allowed 2 hits?
2 hits and 2 runs. That's it. Now, if he is out of the ball game, let's get some runs right here for him so he can get a W. Have a chance for it.
It'll be Bautista, Encarnacion, and Donaldson, the meat of the Blue Jays order. Kirby Yates in relief of the starter, Matt Andres. Bautista has faced him just once. He has a base hit.
Right-hander as opposed to a left-hander. He struck out Dalton Pompey last inning versus the right-hander. Fewer fastballs, more curveballs. So Jose can look for some type of off-speed pitch now with 2 strikes.
High fly ball. Should be an easy play for Brendan Geyer. 1 down. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Rogers Blue Jays Baseball Partnership. It's a 2-2 game. Bottom of the 5th inning. Edwin Encarnacion is grounded out and flied out. Breaking ball. There's been so much made this season about catchers framing. There are stats out now to talk about strikes gained by the catchers, and Bobby Wilson is one of those guys that gets high marks for the way he receives the ball. Beckham was in the hole at short. Encarnacion is out, 2 down.
Well, if you handle a pitching staff that's always around the plate, you're going to look good. I mean, what if you handle a pitching staff that was wild? You never have a chance to frame, so you wouldn't get a reputation as a team that, or a player that frames the ball.
Well, I think the biggest thing that Wilson does, just like what Russell Martin does, is watch his position behind the plate and watch how the umpire has such a clear view of the strike zone. Wilson is small like Russell Martin, and it really gives the umpire a good look. And I can remember hearing umpires for years say, hey, give me a good look now. I just want to be able to see the strike zone, which means stay still, stay quiet, and give me a good shot at that strike zone. Another great depiction. But Wilson, and Bobby and I talked about this yesterday before the game, he grew up under Mike Scioscia. No one demands more from his catchers than Mike Scioscia, who was a great catcher in his playing days. And you and I both had a meeting with Scioscia a couple of years ago in his office here at Rogers Center, and we asked Mike specifically, what's the most important thing for a catcher in your mind? What did he say?
He said, well, a 1-1 pitch, make sure you catch it and keep it on that corner. Don't pull it off the plate, because it's so important to be ahead 1-2 as opposed to 2-1. And that's such a big part of catching. You go around the league and you see guys yanking balls out of the strike zone, really hurting their pitcher that day.
The average in the major leagues between the difference of a 2-1 count and a 1-2 count averages about 75 points.
And it happens a lot during the course of a ball game.
Allison fouls it back.
That chance to either pull it off of the plate or keep it right there and give the umpire a chance to call it a strike.
Wilson told me about Scioscia having a chart, and it was referred to as the molecule chart. Had all the different counts and where you can go from those particular counts. What a pitch. He catches the inside corner. Kirby Yates retires the side in order. Batista, Encarnacion, and Donaldson. We head to the 6th, and here comes the home hardware cleanup crew. Brought to you by Natura. Home.
Follow games pitch by pitch and enjoy in-game video highlights. The app is available on the iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch, Android, and BlackBerry. Season-long subscription packages are available. Visit BlueJays.com for more details. And having a look at that app tonight, you can see that the Boston Red Sox pitching staff is struggling again this evening, losing 7-5 to the Washington Nationals.
Mary, that was all about Justin Masterson, the starter. He's getting hit hard. Daniel Norris is out of the game, and he leaves in a 2-2 ball game. He threw 90 pitches, and he only allowed the 2 hits, 2 earned runs. He walked 3, and got the pitch count up to a point where he is out of the game after 5.
And taking over for Daniel Norris, who looked okay at times tonight, Liam Hendriks. Liam Hendriks last worked 3 days ago. 6 up, 6 down, 4 of them strikeouts.
It's his 3rd appearance of the season. Hendriks is 26 years old, facing Evan Longoria.
You know what he's doing, Buck? Looks like he's throwing a little bit harder than what we saw last year from Liam.
Yeah, and I think he's got a little more depth on his breaking ball. Got a little more tilt on that breaking ball. He's thrown the ball well. Made the team obviously out of spring training, and had 2 separate stints with the Blue Jays last year before he was claimed by the Royals on waivers. Longoria fouls off the breaking ball. So Hendriks takes over here in the 6th. He is from Australia. He was born in Perth. He signed with the Minnesota Twins originally back in 2007. And there's a pitcher down in the Rays bullpen that's also from Australia that signed with the Twins originally, Grant Balfour. Hendriks had an interesting season last year. He's claimed by the Blue Jays in February. traded to Kansas City along with Eric Kratz for Danny Valencia. There's Balfour down in the bullpen. He's had a fine career. A little slider off the plate.
Then the Blue Jays went and got him back because they wanted to put a little bit more depth in their pitching staff at the major league and minor league level. That one just off the plate. A long at bat for Longoria.
The Blue Jays 4-3 to this point, and you can see their schedule. They'll finish out with the Rays. It's a 4-game series that'll finish here Thursday night. And then the Atlanta Braves come to town. Atlanta's off to a surprising start. They traded their closer the eve before opening day. Craig Kimbrell went to San Diego, and Atlanta's responded with a 6-1 record.
Yeah, how's that make you feel when you take all the stars off of your team? But it has made them feel pretty good.
Atlanta's getting some great relief pitching.
Yeah.
Jason Grilli is the closer as we speak, but the former Oriole, Jim Johnson, has recaptured his form. He's off to a great start for Atlanta. Desmond Jennings after the leadoff walk.
All night games until Saturday for the Blue Jays, so they can get in a nice little rhythm.
Well, it is a challenge for these players. Come into the regular season, all of a sudden you play them at night. I talked to several of the players from both clubs saying, you know what, I'm still waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning thinking about spring training early days.
Little spring training hangover, if you will. That's the one thing you want to do. You want to get into a rhythm where you wake up at a certain time, you eat at a certain time, you get to the ballpark at a certain time, take your batting practice. And this is a nice little stretch for the Jays.
Yep, they have a nice stretch of games here at home. 10 games at home, 11 days overall with the off day on Monday. The Orioles will come into town next Tuesday. Tampa Bay, they're in a stretch of 22 straight games against AL East teams. The Blue Jays will play 12 of the next 19 against their East rivals. High fly ball down the right field line. Bautista over in the corner, and it'll slice into the seats. Desmond Jennings has always hit well in this ballpark. He came up here, had his first major league home run in this ballpark. He has a career 300 average hitting in this ballpark. Jennings has 7 home runs in 27 previous games here at Rogers Center.
There are just certain ballparks where you feel comfortable, you see the ball, and he obviously does that right here.
Oh, what a job by Martin. That was a tough ball to block.
Way out in front. That pitch by Hendricks. Watch it out in front. Breaking ball. He buries it. Russell goes down. It ricochets a little bit around that leather.
You know, Russell, I admire the way he got prepared for this season. He caught in spring training as if it were a postseason game. Ground ball. Donaldson cuts it off. Goes to second for one. Back to first. Not in time. Evan Longoria was really bearing down on Devin Travis. Travis hung in there, but the throw was wide of first base.
Yeah, and it was a slow developing play. I don't know if the turf had anything to do with that, but it took a long time to get to Donaldson. He gives him a good throw. Jennings runs too quickly. Even with a good throw, you're not going to get him. There's Devin Travis hanging in there, making Longoria go over the bag if he's going to go get him. Jennings can see that that ball is off target, so he is safe at first.
Jennings is tough to double up. He's got good speed. He has a stolen base.
Be careful.
Already tonight.
Yeah, he's going to try and get into scoring position.
Jennings is 4 for 4 in steal attempts. He has a couple of steals of third in last night's game. R.A. Dickey was on the mound, and Jennings read him perfectly and picked his pocket a couple of times. That ball just off the plate. Now Russell Martin's going to go to the mound. Quick short visit. Colt Hines, a third left-hander in the Blue Jays bullpen. They've got Cecil, Loop, and Hines. A real bonus for the Blue Jays to have three lefties down in your pen.
Certainly. So you can go to them if you need to. Sixth inning right here. If Kevin Cash tries to bring in one of those lefties off the bench, John Gibbons has got his lefty ready to go to face him.
Tampa Bay's bench really had a great series against the Marlins down in Miami. The bench went 8 for 13 in that series. They had a double, 2 triples, a home run. They scored 7 runs and drove in 7. So Kevin Cash has used his bench very effectively.
Oh, he's trying to steal over there, isn't he, at first base? He had a quick move and then threw up the break sign because he didn't feel like he got a good jump over there at first base. But you can tell that Desmond Jennings is very antsy to get into scoring position.
That's part of his game. 2-2. Strike 3 call. Forsythe out on strikes as Hendricks painted the outside corner.
Make a grand entrance during the DIY Expert Sale. Only at Home Building Center and Home Hardware Building Center. Homeowners helping homeowners with expert advice.
He might run right here on the first pitch. Hendricks thought so. The Rays have only 5 hits in 14 2/3 innings in this series. Big part of their game is the stolen base.
I thought he could get a little bit bigger lead over there at first base also. He got back easily. A good lead, I think, for a base stealer here is at least 1 foot on the carpet. 1 foot on the dirt, 1 foot on the carpet.
There he goes. He got a good jump. Throw to second, and what a tag by Travis. Oh, he got to the bag early, and he's able to use that quick tag. Kevin Cash is out of the Rays dugout. He's going to go out to second base to have a chat with Laz Diaz. Martin threw a seed to second base, and what's the second baseman, Travis?
Straight down in the dirt. Get the ball, go straight down to the bag. And I'll tell you what, that replay right there did not get the tag. That replay right in there, and I think they have an argument here. But he got the tag down quickly. He just missed his hand.
And they're going to take it to review.
Yep.
You got to get in, get out with that glove. Don't linger. And I think he missed his hand. You're right. So the umpires are going to have a look at the replay, and they want the Blue Jays back on the field. The defensive team has to go back on the field as the umpires are going to review this play.
And I bet you they overturn it. After those last 2 shots that we just saw, Jennings went in aggressively with a head-first slide. It was a quick tag, but it looked like he missed his hand and he tagged him in the chest. By that time, he had his hand on the bag.
So they are looking at the review. Jennings has not been caught. Well, he has been caught with this tag at second. There's the hand on the bag, and the glove seemed to strike the dirt and didn't touch Jennings. Another good look at it.
Right here from the center field tight. Straddles the bag where you want to be. Here comes the hand. And you can see from that right there, if they said he got him on his chest, the hand was already in.
It's going to be a review, and Travis, like the rest of his teammates, anxious for the outcome of this review. Jennings had 2 steals in last night's game. There's a stolen base earlier tonight, and here he is called out. Very difficult to see just exactly the gap between the glove and the left arm of Jennings. But they're taking a long look at it in New York.
They're probably looking at, did he swipe and hit his arm before he put the glove down in the dirt?
Another look at it. You notice that mitten on the left hand of Jennings, and a lot of base stealers wear that. The umpires have the ruling, and they uphold the call. So Jennings, he can't believe it. He is called out stealing for the first time this season. Credit Russell Martin with the caught stealing, and Devin Travis with the good tag. We're still tied.
And reserve seats that get you closer to the action. Starting from 10 games up to a full season, we will find the package that best suits your needs. Go to BlueJays.com and learn about the great benefits of being a Blue Jays ticket package holder. Buck?
Mary, thank you very much. That's great advice. There's a lot of great games coming up on the schedule, including this weekend. Atlanta's here for a 3-game series. And Baltimore will finish off the homestand April 21st, 2nd, and 3rd. Yana Navarro shows bunt. The Rays are playing that shift, and in this tie game, he says maybe he'll take a shot.
At least try and pull that third baseman in, and then you can slap one by him. I don't know if Longoria is going to come in. He might show that he's going to be in.
Lined right to the second baseman, who is out in shallow right. Logan Forsythe makes the catch. He hit it hard. Navarro's had a good night with the bat. Kevin Cash, a catcher in his playing days, another one of those catchers that has returned to managing. He started his post-playing days with the Blue Jays as a scout. He liked that, and everybody always thought Kevin would turn into a coach or a manager one day.
All those catchers become managers, don't they?
Well, not necessarily all of them, but there's an advantage to being a catcher in that you're involved in every aspect of the game.
That's right.
And you see it in spring training. The catchers, they catch all the pitchers, of course, and then they hear the pitching coaches talking to their pitchers. They're involved in all the defensive plays. They're involved in batting practice. They work with everybody.
Everything. Bunt plays, and they sit behind that plate and they watch the defense. And they see where they're set up, so they're involved in that part of it also, setting up the defense.
And they have to be good communicators. So that plays well when you're managing. 2-1. Russell Martin. Look where all the pitches are they have thrown Russell. And this has been consistent. They're all on the edge of the strike zone, whether it's in and out, up and down.
And that's not just today.
Yeah, it's consistent.
Every day, and he said that. He said they're just pitching me tough right now.
This is pop down the right side. That's going to go back about 3 rows deep. You know, you always wonder who has the upper hand early in the season. Is it the pitcher who's made 5 and 6 starts, or is it the batter? And most batters nowadays, they'll get maybe 45 to 60 at bats in spring training. Rarely do you see hitters getting in the upper 70s to 90 at bats anymore.
You talk to the pitcher, and it's the batter who has the advantage. You talk to the batter, and they say it's the pitcher. Right?
Yeah, that's the
Always.
case. I think years ago, and you know, we don't always want to talk about the good old days, but pitchers used to prepare to throw 9 innings in spring training. And when they would come out of the chute, they definitely had the upper hand. But nowadays, it's the norm for pitchers to kind of work into their season.
Yeah, and in spring training, we've seen it over the last couple of years. Starters getting at the most 5 starts in spring training. And usually their first time out is 1, maybe 2 innings.
Full count.
And then they build from there.
Well, when you think about it, in the history of the game, there's only been 1 opening day no-hitter. That was Bob Feller. But you'll see pitchers as their season goes on, they'll get better and better command and better break on their breaking pitches. Another 3-2 pitch. Martin hits it on the ground, gobbled up by Longoria. 2 down. Let's check in with Jamie Campbell. All of the preseason prognosticators were just about ready to give Washington and Miami the NL East division, and right now they're holding up the whole division. Miami's in last, and Washington's just a game ahead of them. Kevin Pillar, he drove in the first Blue Jays run. Back in the 4th, had a single to center, drove home Josh Donaldson. Blue Jays scored their 2 runs in the 4th. There's a breaking ball away. Pillar just serves it into right. May have broken his bat. He's 2 for 3.
Perfect time for it right there. Hit number 7 of the night for the Blue Jays. They started playing him in the shift instead of trying to pull it. Stays right on it. Breaking ball off the end of the bat, and he hit it right where the second baseman should have been standing. Pillar will take that. 2 hits now.
Tim Leeper giving Pillar some information. Number 9 hitter is Devin Travis. There goes Pillar, and the ball is fouled back to the screen. He had a great jump. Bobby Wilson got hit with that follow through. You see, he wears that batter's helmet, but he still felt the impact of that bat, and it knocked him to his knees.
Well, that inside pitch where the catcher has to slide over and reach for, watch him. High fastball inside. Look at him starting to slide over.
Oh, hit him in the back, right across his back.
And on
he
the
was
steal
coming
attempt
out of the chute because Pillar broke, and that bat smoked him right across the back. We were watching Pillar break at first, and Wilson, he took quite a shot. But you're right about it. Anytime that pitch is inside, the catcher's got to hang in there, and he was trying to get a good jump on making a throw to second, and that pitch was fouled off, and Travis hit him right across the back. Pilar with a shorter lead at first.
Little throw over right now. It doesn't have a great move. Yates. And they've got times on him right now. How long does it take to release? As soon as he starts his movement home, how long does it take for the ball to get into the glove? If it's around 1-4, 1-5, that's a good time for that runner to try and steal a base.
The pitcher's release time 1-4-1-5 from the moment he makes his first move till that baseball hits the catcher's glove. And then you factor in a good major league catcher will be right around 2 flat from the time that ball hits his glove till he gets it into the glove of the middle infielder.
They think he's going right here. Look at Wilson.
He got a good jump, but with 2 strikes, Travis has to protect the plate.
Well, Wilson, it looked like he gave him the pitch out sign, and he set way up outside, anticipating Pilar going. That set out nicely. Watch it. Look how far outside he was, and I think he was anticipating that ball away from him to try and get the steal, and it got too much of the plate.
One and two. Breaking ball. Quite a cat and mouse game between the Rays and the Blue Jays. Tom Foley, the bench coach, working with Bobby Wilson. He'll probably throw over right here. He's going. Ball is drilled to left field. Pilar turns second. He's headed for third. And there'll be no throw. Devin Travis picks up his first hit of the night. Boy, the bottom third of this lineup has really produced early in this season.
It's 4 times they've been on now, both Pilar and Travis. They tried to come back inside one more time against Devin Travis. They got him out a couple of times, pounding him in with fastballs, but that time he was ready.
So Yates is out of the game. Steve Geltz will come into the game. Right-hander replacing the right-hander. Reyes getting updated from the hitting coach. Yates gave up an RBI double to Jose Reyes when he came into the game back in the 4th, so he's not going to get a chance to face him. It's the new right-hander, Steve Geltz into the game, making his 4th appearance.
Yeah, just one time through the lineup for Kirby Yates, and now Geltz will take over. 4th time this year. He's got a good arm. He's got a lively fastball, slider, a little bit of a split. He's a strikeout pitcher with some deception, and he's familiar with this area, with the University of Buffalo.
1st and 3rd. Back-to-back 2-out singles. The Blue Jays are 2 for 8 so far with runners in scoring position, and Reyes picked one of those up back in the 4th. Pops this up on the infield. First baseman Rivera, now he almost overran it. But Geltz comes out of the bullpen to shut down the Blue Jays in the 6th. We'll move to the 7th. It's a 2-2 game.
Following tonight's game, it is the playoff preview show. The Hockey Central insiders break down every angle of the NHL playoffs. The Stanley Cup's playoffs preview show with Darren Millard coming up next. Buck?
Everybody's going to want to check out that show as they get ready for their hockey pools as the playoffs begin tomorrow. Liam Hendricks has come into this ball game, and 3 up, 3 down for Hendricks. He was on the mound, struck out Logan Forsythe, and Desmond Jennings was caught stealing. Play went to review. The call on the field was upheld by the umpires. The Rays are out of challenges. Well, we see that a lot. No matter who it is, of course, Blue Jays, Edwin Encarnacion is notorious for losing the grip on the bat. And there's that rosin pine tar stick that everybody uses, but it gets slick a lot of times.
Watch this one. This one he throws behind him. Navarro exits stage left out by that dugout.
What a breaking ball. Rivera can't believe it. Big strikeout. That's 2 strikeouts for Hendricks.
You know, that's the benefit of carrying some long men in your bullpen. They're not 1-inning guys. You can give them 2, 3 innings and really take the stress off of your bullpen.
Well, speaking of the bullpen, that's big Miguel Castro, who is up and throwing. Colt Hines is standing by. He's ready, the left-hander, on the right of your screen.
Yeah, he was throwing last inning to get ready for any counter moves that Kevin Cash had for John Gibbons.
This is Tim Beckham.
Down at the bottom of the lineup.
You can see Dane Johnson just indicating to Castro, let's go, get loose. Wanted him to get loose in a hurry. Cole Hines, you can see he's ready, so he's just standing by, kind of going pitch by pitch. The Blue Jays, you mentioned the bullpen and how effective they have been coming into this game. They have the second best opponent's batting average at 152. Only Kansas City has a better opponent's batting average.
And we all know about their bullpen, right?
Kansas City, of course, had that terrific run with their bullpen last season. But John Gibbons' bullpen has been pitching very well early on. He didn't mean to and fouls it into the Rays dugout. Kansas City, middle of the pack in innings pitched out of the bullpen. They are 8th in the American League. Coming into this game, they've thrown 23 1/3 innings. The Yankees have thrown 35 1/3 before the start of play tonight.
That's the one category you don't want to be a leader in, right? If you're a bullpen, it means your starters aren't giving you what you need.
Hendricks, his third strikeout. That's 3 strikeouts in a row for Liam Hendricks.
The championship-winning Honda CRF 450R for those who dare to ride red.
Bobby Wilson, the catcher, in the 9th spot, singles up the middle. The 2-out single for Wilson. Wilson, the catcher, aboard. It'll be interesting to see how they play this now. He is at first with 2 outs, and John Gibbons is out of the Blue Jays dugout. He has made the call to the bullpen, and he wants the right-hander, Miguel Castro. Kind of curious, after the Wilson single, Hendricks has faced 6 batters. Allowed just the 2-out single. He'll turn things over to 20-year-old Miguel Castro. Game. This will be his 5th appearance early on, and he is on with a runner at first and 2 outs, and Kevin Kiermaier has come off the bench for Tampa Bay.
John Gibbons going to his closer here in the 7th inning, the top of the lineup. He wants to hold it right here, give his offense a chance to win it.
Roberto Osuna has pitched in back-to-back games. Osuna threw 11 pitches on Sunday, 29 in the game last night. He went 2 innings. Kiermaier goes after the first pitch, and Pilar's going to get there. Castro comes out of the bullpen throws one pitch to close out the Rays in the 7th. We'll go to the bottom of the 7th. It's a 2-2 game.
Is the exclusive official team shop of your Toronto Blue Jays. Visit our newest flagship store at the Toronto Eaton Centre, Level 1, or visit jshop.ca. And lots of fans walking through the Jay Shop here at Rogers Centre looking for possibly a new jersey, maybe a number 45 for Dalton Pompey.
You got to get your new Blue Jays gear, that's for sure. And we saw all those Russell Martin jerseys being made up. Dalton Pompey is a Mississauga native. Desmond Jennings moves from center field to left field. The pinch hitter Kevin Kiermaier takes over in center. He was batting for Brandon Guyer, the left fielder. Pompey leads things off 2-0.
Giltz has a good arm. Right now, if you're Dalton Pompey, you're looking for one pitch in one spot. Try to do some damage.
He got a pretty good pitch and got underneath it and pops it into the seats. Pompey has 2 big league home runs. He hit his first home run last September against Felix Hernandez. He homered on Sunday off of Chris Tillman. He doesn't mess around. He goes right to the top of the staff. He gets their number ones.
Remember Justin Verlander in spring training?
Got Verlander too. Blue Jays need a base runner. Then why not get the speedy Pompey on base to start the 7th? High fly ball into shallow right. Right fielder Souza makes the call. It's a 2-2 game, 1 out in the 7th, and Jose Bautista. This is where he ranks in franchise history. Carlos Delgado is the all-time Blue Jays home run leader. He has 336. Vernon Wells is second. Bautista broke a tie with Joe Carter when he homered on Sunday off of Darren O'Day. George Bell with 202.
3 of those guys up on the level of excellence.
Just a matter of time before Jose Bautista joins them. Home run cut. Pitches up in the zone. That's generally what home run hitters like to see. Inside, they're flirting with danger. They have stayed away from Bautista through most of this early part of the series.
And that was supposed to be a little slider that stayed in the middle. he's going to have to lay off of that pitch. And that's something that we saw Jose do time and time again last season. Just wait for the pitcher to come to him. Right now, a little bit too anxious. That fastball was out of the strike zone.
Jose had a 100-walk season last year. He had a .403 on-base percentage. They're trying to go upstairs again. They did, and they got a pop-up. Kiermaier with a long run into shallow center. He gets there and makes the catch. 2 fly ball outs here in the 7th. I think the Blue Jays are just anxious for somebody to come up with a dramatic home run. Encarnacion in the 9th inning in last night's game. The Blue Jays were down 2-1. He was batting with Batista at first and struck out. He had some wicked swings in that at bat.
Everybody felt like he was going to do something dramatic. He was out off a couple of change-ups and then struck out on a high fastball. He has been known to do it. Had a walk-off home run against the Brewers last season.
Another pop, this one behind home plate. Bobby Wilson will go back to the screen, but it's over the screen, out of play. Blue Jays have 2 runs on 8 hits. Tampa Bay 2 runs on just 3 hits. Hard hit right to the Gold Glover at third. Longoria across the diamond. Once again, the middle of the order goes quietly in the 7th. We'll go to the 8th. It's a 2-2 game. Motor Trend's 2015 Sport Utility of the Year.
Steven Souza hit a couple of home runs last year for Washington after they brought him up, and tonight he gets his first of the season. Doesn't overswing, just catches this one out in front. It's a cutter, and look where it lands. Way up in the upper deck in center field for his first home run, and got the Tampa Bays off tonight with their first run.
That home run came on the first pitch he saw. This time he bunts it, and it's a terrific bunt. Castro throws, and not in time. We saw the long ball in the first. Now he drops down a bunt to start the 8th.
How about that? The long and the short of it. A bomb to center, and then a perfectly laid bunt. He got a good pitch to bunt on. It was a slider, and those type of pitches, they just hang out over the middle of the plate. You can see Donaldson was playing way back. He deadens it. No chance for Castro to make the play over to first base.
The Blue Jays pitchers took pitchers fielding practice today, and they get a little more acclimated to this new surface here at Rogers Center. Castro made a pretty good play, but it was a great bunt. This is Asdrubal Cabrera. He's the DH tonight. He checks his swing and fouls it back. Cabrera, switch hitter. First time he has hit left-handed tonight. Liam Hendricks came into the ball game after Cabrera had made the final out of the fifth. Two good fastballs.
In good spots. Fastball in, and he just couldn't get the bat head out. Now with that good sinking fastball, if he puts a good one down and away, he's looking for a ground ball right here so the Blue Jays can turn two.
Foul tip, and Russell Martin hangs on for the strikeout. Went with the breaking ball.
Pretty nasty stuff right there. You want to get the ball underneath the bat of a left-handed hitter, and that's exactly what he does right there. He sweeps it right underneath the swing.
Evan Longoria, the runner, got a great jump, and the ball goes into center field. Pompey will not have a play at third as Souza picks up his second stolen base of the season. Now he's just 90 feet away.
And that's what the Rays do. And I think what the opposition's going to have to do, they're going to have to really concentrate on the Rays stealing bases. From 1 through 9, they can all run, and this is what they're going to do. This is how they're going to make things happen. Souza just got a huge jump off of Castro. Now he's at third base, and the infield has to come in, and they're not going to let Longoria knock him in.
Can't really blame him. You've got Longoria at the plate, and one of the toughest hitters in baseball in these situations. The Rays have 4 stolen bases tonight. They have 6 in the series. That's a big part of their offense. Desmond Jennings will be the next batter. You see John Gibbons giving the infield the instruction. He wants the middle of the infield to play for 2.
I think they have to cheat too. They have to really come in. You can see they're not as deep as they usually play in this ballpark. Jennings can really run, and the ball's not going to get to him as quick as it has in the past.
First and third, 1 out. Blows that fastball right by him at 97. Jennings surprisingly grounded into 10 double plays last year. That has something to do with the fact that he hits the ball hard. Boy, Castro, has he been consistent with his ability to throw strikes? This is his 5th appearance in the major leagues. Coming into this game, he was averaging 12.5 pitches per inning.
Go right after him.
0-2. Fly ball to center. Tagging at third is Souza, and there's not going to be a play. Souza comes in. Jennings picks up the sacrifice fly. And the Rays have taken a 3-2 lead.
They were trying to go for the strikeout, and they were trying to get that comeback fastball down and away, hoping that Jennings would take it. But it caught too much of the plate, and it was up. Reached back for a little something extra. Lost his command, and Jennings puts up another good at bat here.
Desmond Jennings has given the Rays the lead. Logan Forsythe fouls off the first pitch. Castro came in to retire Kevin Kiermaier to end the 7th. Steven Souza dropped down a beautiful bunt to start the 8th. Stole second, went to third on the air by Russell Martin, and scores on the sacrifice fly. There's a base hit to left. Forsythe singles on the high fastball. That moves Longoria into scoring position.
That fastball was 98 miles an hour, and he pulled it on an 0-2 pitch. Because look where it is. It's right in his sweet spot. Turns that one over.
This is Rene Rivera. He has gone 0 for 3. That'll get your attention.
98. No diving out over the plate.
Three-2 Rays. They play some close games. Coming into this game, 3 of the 4 Rays wins, they scored 2 runs. Since the start of last season, the Rays are tops in the majors, winning 17 games when they score just 2 runs.
Great pitching and excellent defense. And that looks like what the Rays are going to do this year. Kevin Cash, what I've noticed in these 2 games, he uses everybody on this team. He finds the right situation where he wants to get his player in.
Three and 1. Friday night in Miami against the Marlins, Kevin Cash used all 13 of his position players. He used 21 players overall. 21 of the 25, only the 4 starters.
And they only played 10 innings, right? 10 innings, and he used 21 players.
There's a breaking ball on a 3-1 pitch and a good one. Longoria's at second. He was issued the free pass. Forsythe single. They'll be off on the pitch. 3 and 2, 2 outs. Cut on and missed. Castro strikes out a pair, but Tampa Bay has taken the lead on the sacrifice fly. We'll go to the bottom of the 8th. It's 3-2 Tampa Bay. Now it's time for a Blue Jays Central update. Here's Jamie Kemp. ball game is Grant Balfour. We mentioned Balfour. He is from Australia. This will be his 4th appearance, and Balfour has been a Ray during 2 different stints of his big league career.
Yeah, he has. He's been around a while. It comes right after you with that fastball. I loved his demeanor out on that mound. He challenged you with that heater. Say, here it is. Let's see what you can do with it. He still throws really hard. There are his numbers in 3 games. Lots of zeros up there.
Balfour spent 18 days in Australia this spring to spend with his father David, who passed away after a lengthy battle with pancreatic cancer. The Rays certainly wanted Balfour to spend time with his father at the end. His father was involved in the Australian Baseball League as the GM of the Sydney Blue Sox. Ball and a strike to Josh Donaldson. Donaldson is 2 for 3. High and deep drive to left. Desmond Jennings back at the wall and makes the catch. Donaldson tommyhawked that high fastball and just about tied it up.
That's what he does right there. He didn't get all of it, but he's aggressive at the plate. He gets the high fastball and he gets under it just a tad. You can see how high it is, and that takes it right into the glove of Desmond Jennings, who finds the wall, puts that right hand up against the wall, and he doesn't even have to jump, as Balfour can now breathe a sigh of relief after that one stayed in the yard.
Yonder Navarro. Navarro's been on base twice. He lined out to the second baseman in his last at bat. Bounced in the dirt. Blue Jays have 8 hits. They've out-hit Tampa Bay, who's managed just 5. Off the end of the bat, Souza comes in a couple of steps. Balfour retires the first 2 here in the 8th.
Couple of fastballs right there from Grant Balfour. The Blue Jays just missed him.
Well, you mentioned Balfour and his demeanor. He's always talking to himself out on the mound, and sometimes that'll rub the hitters the wrong way, but it's all self-motivation. He loves to compete. Russell Martin 0 for 3 with a couple of strikeouts. Buries that slider in the dirt. Balfour's now 37 years old. He's got over 10 years of major league service. We mentioned he signed originally with the Minnesota Twins and came up for the first time in 2001. Balfour has spent time with Minnesota, Milwaukee. We mentioned Tampa Bay. His first stint was in 2007. It lasted until 2011 when he went to Oakland.
He's had some good years, some big save years when he was the closer in those bullpens.
In Oakland, he saved 24 in 2012, and this ball is hit high and deep. Desmond Jennings has some room. Balfour has used all the room in left field. 3 fly ball outs, and will go to the 9th. Tampa Bay with a 1-run lead.
Baseball to get an extended 60-day free trial. Buck?
Thank you, Barry. We have made it to the 9th inning. Tampa Bay won 2-1 last night in the Blue Jays home opener. They have a 1-run lead at 3-2. Now Colt Hines makes his 3rd appearance of the season for the Jays.
It's a situational lefty. He's pitched in 2 games, but he's only thrown an inning and 2/3 so far this season. Pitched twice in the Baltimore series. That's the last time we saw Colt in a game. One good one, one bad one against the Orioles. And now he'll face 8-9-1 as we start the 9th inning.
Daniel Norris started. He went 5 innings, allowed 2 runs on 2 hits, walked 3 and struck out 4. Liam Hendricks, another good outing for Hendricks, an inning and 2/3, allowed just a hit, struck out 3. Tim Beckham takes the first pitch strike. Beckham has a sacrifice fly tonight that came in the 2nd. The Rays have scored single runs in the 1st, 2nd, and 8th. Both of the Blue Jays runs, they came in the 4th.
I got a feeling that the Tampa Bay Rays are going to play a lot of close games this year.
They're certainly getting good pitching. We talked to Kevin Cash and the hitting coach Derek Shelton, and they really like their lineup. They say there are a bunch of grinders in the lineup, and we have seen that played out here in the first 2 games. Beckham pulls it foul. I mean, when you think about it, Steven Souza had a home run in the 1st, and then leading off against Miguel Castro in the 8th, he dropped down a perfect bunt, stole a base, went to 3rd on the throwing error by Russell Martin, and scored on the sac fly.
Yeah, their other 2 runs have come via the sacrifice fly, but the stolen base has played a big part in their game tonight.
Hines strikes out Beckham. 1 down here in the 9th. We'll be right back at it. Game 3 of this 4-game set. The veteran Mark Burley, fresh off his 200th career win against the Orioles, will go to the mound. The Rays have not yet decided on their starting pitcher. A lot was going to be determined by tonight. It may be Erasmo Ramirez, who is working out of their bullpen. Popped up and back over the screen, out of play. Bobby Wilson, the catcher. Wilson had a base hit in the 7th. He collected that hit off of Liam Hendricks and knocked Hendricks out of the game. Castro came in to end the inning. It took just 1 pitch, and he retired the pinch hitter Kevin Kiermaier.
He has shown the ability to throw strikes. Colt Hines spins it up there, takes a little something off, moves the fastball around.
Another strikeout. The breaking ball does the trick. Back-to-back strikeouts for Hines.
That's where you want to throw it, right there with 2 strikes. 1 ball in, 1 ball away. Then he comes right back with this sweeping slider. Watch how that too gets underneath the bat of Bobby Wilson. 2 up, 2 down.
Kevin Kiermaier entered the game as a pinch hitter in the 7th and flied out against Miguel Castro. Blue Jays pitchers have 11 strikeouts tonight. Fly ball down the left field line. Pilar with a long run over near the seats, and he runs out of room. Slammed up against the wall. That ball was a couple rows back into the seats. Pilar hit that wall hard.
Boy, he certainly did. In Baltimore, he made a catch like that. Listen to the crowd recognizing a good effort. Banged his knee up against the wall in Baltimore, making a catch, and then goes a long way here, doesn't give up, and sacrifices the body as he slams into the wall again.
Well, he stayed right with it and just ran out of room. 1 and 2, 2 outs. Ground ball up the middle. That's going to sneak through, and they better hurry up. Kiermaier can run. He had a couple of singles that he stretched into doubles down in Miami against the Marlins, and Blue Jays have seen him do that before. So they're on alert. Whenever he hits it on the ground, they hustle after it.
Yeah, he has had 3 singles into the outfield that he has turned into doubles already this season. He is always thinking about another base. And Dalton Pompey, that was one of the things that they told him. Look how quickly he got to that ball to keep Kiermaier over at first.
This is Steven Souza Jr., who's had a good night. He is 2 for 4. He has scored 2 of the Rays' 3 runs. He had a home run in the first. Started the rally in the 8th with a perfect bunt single.
Stolen base again has played a big part of what the Rays have done tonight. They've got some speed over there at first base at Kiermaier.
Kiermaier doesn't have a stolen base yet this season. Souza with his 3rd hit of the night. Kiermaier will stop at second base. Steven Souza came into this ball game batting .158. 3 hits.
Waited on that. 2 strikes on Souza, and he just wraps that ball into left field. Caught way too much of the plate on an 0-2 pitch. Looked like an off-speed pitch that didn't do a lot, so that'll draw Pete Walker to the mound.
Marco Estrada begins to loosen up in the Blue Jays bullpen. Asdrubal Cabrera was 0 for 3 against Daniel Norris, batting as a right-handed bat. For the season, he's 0 for 6 as a right-handed hitter. He's a switch hitter. Pete Walker checking on the status of Marco Estrada. Souza came into this game with 3 hits in 19 at bats. He has a 3-hit game. That's going to slice foul into the seats, out of play.
You can see why the Tampa Bay Rays wanted him in a trade. Souza, he can run a little bit, play good defense, and he's got some power.
He has played center field, and they have a terrific defensive outfield, which Tampa Bay has always really paid attention to, trying to put the best defensive team on the field. 0-2 to Cabrera. Colt Hines struck out Tim Beckham to start the inning. Got Bobby Wilson on strikes as well. And then Kiermaier hit a 2-strike single up the middle, and Souza single to left. Blue Jays trail at 3-2. We're in the top of the 9th. Pulled on the ground. Big hop for Donaldson. He takes his time, in time, and the inning is over. Colt Hines strands a pair. Keeps it a 1-run game. We'll go to the bottom of the 9th. Kevin Pillar will lead things off. Then Devin Travis back to the top of the order. show as they get set for the Stanley Cup playoffs. And on Sportsnet 1 on now, the Mariners are in LA to take on the Dodgers. So lots happening right after this ball game. Everybody wants to get set for the Stanley Cup playoffs, so make sure you check out that Hockey Central playoff edition. Rally caps, they are out for a second straight night here at Rogers Center. A couple of one-run games. The interesting fact of the first two games of this series, Tampa Bay is 0 for 13 in the two games with runners in scoring position, and they have defined manufacturing runs in these two games.
The stolen base has been big, and the sacrifice fly has been big. Kevin Jepsen is now going to come in to pitch the ninth inning for the Rays. Jepsen's got a good arm. Always thought that he could be a closer when he was with the Los Angeles Angels.
Scores that first pitch fastball in there to Kevin Pillar. Pillar is 2 for 3 with an RBI tonight. Strike 2.
And that's why right there he has got two very good pitches. A lightning quick arm that shows that good fastball, and then a sharp breaking ball that Kevin Pillar just watched.
He gets a piece of it and dribbles it up the third baseline. Longoria just swipes it foul.
You and I were out here yesterday for the home opener, and Luis Rivera was out very early rolling balls up both lines to see what this new turf was going to do. And without a doubt, any ball that's rolling towards the foul line, it's falling off. And that was a prime example of it right there. Pillar's check swing was rolling up that line, and it just dropped off.
Yeah, for some reason, and obviously there's a concrete surface under this artificial surface, and it's level. But both lines, the ball near the foul lines, went into foul ground. They rolled up baseballs, and they both went into foul territory on both lines. Kevin Jepsen was acquired by Tampa Bay in a trade. Last December 16th, the Rays sent Matt Joyce, the outfielder, out to Los Angeles, and in return they got Kevin Jepsen. Jepsen is now 30 years old. He's got nearly 5 years of big league service, all with the Angels prior to this season. So Bobby Wilson knows him well. They were teammates in Anaheim with the Angels. There's a comfort level when you're throwing to a catcher. That's a very comforting visual for Kevin Jepsen. 2-2. Chop toward Longoria. He takes the short hop and throws on the run. Pillar's retired.
Boy, he is a good fielder. He is smooth. You either want to get the big hop or you want to get the short hop. You don't want that in-between hop. So this one off the dirt. And watching Longoria, he came right after that ball and got it on the short hop. Watch this. That's an easier play right there. And once he catches it, it's academic. Easy over to first base for the first out.
Two-time Gold Glover. He won Gold Gloves in 2009 and 2010. Pillar, 2 for 4. Now Devin Travis. Might have been off the plate. That breaking ball looked like it came around the inside corner, but Travis is behind 0-2.
It's a big breaking ball. It's sharp and it's hard. You can see from pitch tracker that it might have missed.
Another hard breaking ball. This one off the plate outside. Jepsen has just 5 big league saves. Travis gets a piece of it.
Always thought he could be a a closer because he's got strikeout stuff. He throws plenty of strikes. That's never been a problem with Kevin Jepsen. And he's got a good pitch that we'll call it a finishing pitch, that curveball, which is a sharp breaker. Now it looks like they're going to go upstairs with a fastball.
They missed their spots. Travis gave it a ride. Kiermaier back, jumps, and makes the catch up against the scoreboard. Kevin Kiermaier came into the game as a pinch hitter in the 7th inning and saves extra bases for Kevin Jepsen.
They're playing deep because they're playing no doubles. You can't have any ball get over your head when you have a 1-run lead in the 9th inning. I don't care who's hitting. Number 9 hitter Travis sends it right to the auxiliary scoreboard in right center field, and because Kiermaier was playing deep and with that great speed, he hauls it in.
Brad Boxberger picked up the save in last night's game. He threw 19 pitches to earn his 3rd save of the season.
He is deep in center field. You can see him shading him to right field. And now it's just a few steps and a jump, and he hauls it in.
Blue Jays down to their final out. Reyes behind 0-1. On the ground. Forsythe. Ball game. So Tampa Bay takes the first 2 games of this 4-game series. Both 1-run games. And Tampa Bay, 0 for 13 with runners in scoring position, has manufactured runs in both of these wins.
And they've had great pitching, and their bullpen has been outstanding. Blue Jays are looking for that big hit. They left 8 runners on base tonight. They got 8 hits and left 8 runners on base, and it was a 1-run game. Clutch hitting's got to show up tomorrow night.
Good defense as well, as Tampa Bay has used that formula over the last several seasons for success. Blue Jays win another 1-run or lose another 1-run game 3-2. Stay tuned. Coming right up, Hockey Central on 4 channels, getting all set for the Stanley Cup playoffs. More baseball on Sportsnet 1. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow night. Mark Burley will go to the Hill for the Blue Jays.